Right now, you hear my voice reading the words of this intro. It's easy to understand what I'm talking about, I hope, because it's more conversational. Verbal. What humans might be best at. Communication. I can frame things easily, lead you down different pathways, because in a sense we're having a dialogue, you and I, in your head. And since I'm in here, if I wanted to plant some ideas, persuade you that a certain product would be a really good choice next time you were at the store, it'd be pretty easy for me. We have a dialogue going already. Talking as a means of persuasion is effective, and as lawyers, you're well aware of this technique. The written word, on the other hand, is a bit different. You've heard about people being talked into something, but you don't often hear people say they were written into buying something. It's not to say it doesn't happen. When language persuades the purse strings, it's called advertising. But if language persuades against the rational mind, that's heading into propaganda. It all comes down to the art of copywriting. As lawyers, you know how to use persuasive language. Closing arguments, for example. It's not the same as writing persuasively. And that's what we're here to talk about today on LAWsome. How to write compelling, creative, and most importantly, revenue-generating ad copy. So I'll, see myself out of your head for now. Let's go to the show.
LAWsome, the podcast for law firms. Powered by ConsultWebs.
Welcome back to LAWsome, the only podcast for law firms that's available via fax. We're here to inform, educate, and entertain the legal community with the latest in personal and professional developments. I am your lead horticulturist, Jake Sanders, and tiptoeing through the tulips with me today, as always, is Paul Julius. Paul, how does your garden grow?
You know, this is a lot of work, man. You gotta pull weeds, water it, cultivate.
And
it's complicated. Gardening isn't as easy as people make it, you know?
And the horta part and the culture. I like the horta part.
It's in your job title.
That's what I'm saying. And I was going to make a bad joke, but I'm going to make a better joke by not making the joke. I'm going to be best. Hashtag be best, Paul.
Be best. I'm trying.
Anyway, what's on the show today?
Today, we talk about advertising language and good copywriting with an article from entrepreneur.com. Then we hit the round table for a discussion of what it takes to craft good sales copy for law firms.
Pull up a plate. It's the Hot Takes Buffet.
The link today is from entrepreneur.com. It's by Gail Goodman, who is the CEO of Constant Contact. It's the 10 commandments of great copywriting. She wrote this specifically towards email marketing, but I think it's transferable. Let me give you a brief and then we'll jump into it. Marketers use many strategies to improve the effectiveness of their campaigns, but one area often overlooked is what fills the page, the copy you write. Whether you're a seasoned writer or a novice, it's always important to strengthen your editorial skills and make sure your email marketing communications contain valuable information. Good copy helps your readers understand your offer and how to respond. The following copywriting tips are ones that the pros know well. So, Paul, do you want to give a hot take? Do you want to go through those?
Oh, yeah, man. You know, I've never met an enumerated list I can't read.
I forgot about that, bro.
Here we go.
Okay, do it.
Let's do it. 8. There are 8 of them, so everybody hang on until the very end because they're all important.
And then there's 9.
Number 1. Oh, there's 9. Well, I
think they've multiplied. I don't know. Maybe
they're growing. List. Now there's 10. Oh my God. We're cultivating an enumerated list in our garden. All right. Number 1, know your audience. Number 2, determine your value proposition. Number 3, find a unique angle. Number 4, establish objective. Number 5, compelling headlines. Number 6, avoid weasel words. Number 7, avoid passive voice. Number 8, include client testimonial. And number 9, keep the copy clean, concise.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think? Do you want to go through those individually? What is there one that was?
We're going to talk about all this stuff later.
So what do you think was the most specifically exciting part about this?
So there's two things that I really liked about it. The main one though is that, and you mentioned it, is that while she's obviously gearing this toward email campaigns and stuff, but I think it's important to know that these fundamentals um, are true across whatever medium it is, whether you're email or writing a text ad or a display ad or whatever. These kind of things you can't do wrong by just going through this list, regardless of what you're doing. So I think that's kind of an important thing. Like these don't change if you're writing an ad for Google AdWords or if you're trying to write a compelling headline for an email campaign. It's that you're using the same concepts. But the one I really liked was commandment number 6 was write a great headline. You got to get people's attention. That's the whole trick with everything like that is everything. Every ad campaign, I mean, the ones that I'm a fan of, whether it's Nike or Pepsi or anything like that, they've got this catchphrase headline that's just, it's so powerful. It almost doesn't matter. If you can't get someone's attention, then the rest of the stuff that you're working on is not going to matter because they won't read it.
So, and I'm looking at, I just did a quick cursory Google search. 80% of people read the headline. 20% of people read the copy. And then there's another one from Washington Post. 6 in 10 of you will share this link without reading it.
Well, that's Twitter right there, isn't it?
Well, but it goes to show that you have to control people's eyes and you have to draw them down the page. Like in a movie, the director and the cinematographer draw the audience's attention to things. By zooming in on them or cutting things out of the frame. But in some respect, when you're doing advertising, you're like running a stage play. So you have to be really, really obvious with what you want people to look at. And the only way to do that is to focus on the headline. And if you earn their attention from the headline, then they'll go to your subtopic. And if you earn their attention from the subtopic, then they'll go into the body. But really, your success on any advertising endeavor lives and dies in the headline. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Well, and think about it too. Like if you want to, stepping away from the email and let's look at Google AdWords, text, search ads.
Right.
There's 4 of them. You're going to compete with 4 other ads. So that you have to get someone's attention right off the bat. Like even if you're at the top, if the whole list of those things says, car accident lawyer, call me. There's 4 of them that say car accident lawyer, call me. What if you could do something different? What if you could say, top rated car accident lawyer or don't let the insurance company take you for a ride or something like that? Like, what if you could do something that would separate yourself? I mean, that's what we're talking about. That's powerful.
Yeah. And what I think is that there's also an opportunity for you to specifically talk to an audience because it's not finding something specific about you that people can relate to. It's about finding something specific that you can aim your audience towards. So, I mean, if you're a car accident lawyer, target just the mothers of teen drivers. Can you go that niche? Just do truckers. Just do people who like small, funny cars. There's a way for you to totally isolate all these groups, talk specifically to them and say, teen drivers are, most likely get in an accident. We work with mothers who blah, blah, blah. Already I'm talking to a specific audience. So that audience is more likely to react to that headline. Whereas most people want to create an advertisement that grabs everyone's attention because you never know who's going to get into a motor vehicle accident. There's a chance for you to specifically target folks. So, I mean, you like the headline. I really enjoyed Know Your Audience. I think, Gail put that as number 1 because you got to figure out who you're specifically talking to. Because if your advertising is made for everyone, then it's made for no one. Just remember that. If you're trying to talk to everybody, you're talking to nobody. A lot of people are failing to kind of drill in their messaging. And this isn't to say that you shouldn't try multiple variants of it. Just talk to the mothers. Just talk to the teens. Just talk to the teen truckers. Just talk to these folks. Test those variants. See what's happening and see what works. And then you can start realizing, we really are getting engagement with the teens. So let's change the way we talk, but you'll never know that until you decide to focus on one area. And I think a lot of lawyers and law firm marketers are not really interested in focusing. And that's the number one tip here.
Yeah. Well, and we're going to break it down more specifically and give some actual do this, don't do this, try this, don't try this stuff, because I mean, Jake, we've done it. We've done it a lot, you know? I've written thousands of ads for law firms, some of them with you.
But I like that you're saying we've written thousands of these things, and it's not just because we love it. It's because we know that you have to go for quantity, go for a big amount, write all of the headlines, try 100 different variations of it, and then you'll be able to find the quality. But most people are thinking that it'll just pop up, like we'll come up with a great slogan. You actually have to exercise and train a little bit before you get into the copywriting ring, or else you're going to get knocked out.
Yeah.
So the round table, we go round for round. And even though we are horticulturalists, the one thing we like to grow is business revenue for law firms. And we do it through good copywriting skills. So let's go to the round table right now.
Let's go.
Stay tuned as we continue on a very special episode of LAWsome.
I met Tanner, who works for Consult Webs, on a plane on the way back from Key West, Florida. And I'd just been thinking that I needed to do some more marketing for my law firm. So when he told me that he worked for Consult Webs, I was super excited. From the beginning till even now, I've been with them for almost 2 years, and the experience has really been great. Having Consult Webs on board is really like having your own team of people that really care about what kind of business you're getting. I mean, practicing law can seem kind of lonely. You always are wondering, how am I going to get clients? How am I going to make payroll? But with Consult Webs, it's not just me worrying about having people come in the door. They're there as well. And they've been so responsive. Since I started with Consult Webs, I have increased the number of employees double at least. And since I started with Consult Webs, the revenue has tripled. So it's really been an incredible experience.
Go to consultwebs.com to learn more.
Let's head over to the LAWsome Roundtable with Paul and Jake.
Welcome to the Roundtable. It's Paul and Jake. You may know us from earlier in the show.
Still here.
They haven't managed to get rid of us because they can't find us. Let's start from the beginning. People who are listening to this, lawyers, law firm marketers, they probably know that advertising is good for their law firm, but let's just start. Digital advertising is really pricey. Why would you advertise for your law firm, and why do it online? And why is it so expensive? I mean, can you speak to some of those things?
Well, I mean, I think we both can. My experience with it, I would say, why should you do it online? It's easy because it works. We've seen it work. We both seen it work. We've made it work. And I can tell you firsthand that, if you do it right, you aren't paying crazy amounts of money, and it'll pay for itself. I mean, it'll pay for itself many times over, and it should. It's not an accident that there's so many people using things like Google AdWords, Bing, remarketing, all these different things. It's because it's effective. I mean, it's very effective. If you could show an ad to somebody who typed in the search phrase into Google, I was in a car accident, what should I do now? Yeah, I'd want to show an ad there. It works.
And unless you set up a marketing and advertising campaign that's triggered by those keywords, and you have to invest in somebody who can help you do that, you're missing those opportunities. And I think there's a lot of unsuccess stories out there that we hear more about than we would normally, that, oh, this is really, really successful. I think we like to point out, I did it and I got nothing from it. I did Facebook, I got nothing from it. I did Google for a while, I got nothing from it.
What a ripoff.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. But usually those people are either going it alone, going it and hiring their brother, who knows a little bit of code.
Yeah.
We can blame other folks, but that kind of misses the point, because if me and Paul have done this to the tune of 1,000% return on investment, way over the suggested 300, which is 3-1. How is it possible? There must be components of good digital advertising. Why are people failing when they go in it?
I've managed hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, geez, probably in millions now that I think about it, of ad spend. I've seen a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of clients come to us with their campaign already set up, and they're like, it's not working. I don't think, see if you can do something with this. And what I see every time is that people just don't get advertising. They treat AdWords like it's this special thing because, AdWords has these character limits, so you have this weird kind of copywriting haiku you have to stick to.
Right.
And they feel like it's not subject to these best practices that we talked about earlier in the hot take. And Google, they don't do a lot to dissuade you from that because they feel, it's their business to make money off clicks,
Right.
They want you. Well, let me clarify that a little bit. They do have this thing called quality score. So they do want people, at least trying to write good ads, but they don't really show you or talk about how to write the best ads, how to get the most out of it. And even the ones that don't work, you should be able to take something from that. There's a lot more to it why people blow a lot of money on AdWords, and a lot of it is just poor account setup. Like we talked before, keywords, choosing the wrong keywords, right. the wrong match. There's a lot of different stuff, but ultimately, what people are going to see is that ad. So if you have every single ad that just says "need a lawyer," I need a lawyer. I'm looking for a lawyer. How is that differentiating anything? So I think that's it. And I think, in order to make this work, I think for people to understand this, I think we need to talk about the components of good digital advertising.
Before we get into the next section, I thought it was important to make a distinction. And you mentioned it earlier, is the brand advertising and a direct response. And I think we need to kind of bifurcate our advertising realities right here, and say that there is one type of advertising, which is called brand awareness. And this is Nike's Just Do It. It hits you in a different way in your brain. You think of a tribal kind of association. You're trying to find a cultural kind of grab. And then the other type of advertising is direct response, which is 10% off until Wednesday. Use this code. Very focused, telling you exactly what the action you need to take. And that hits a different part of our brain too. That's sort of that responding action part of our brain. Reptilian, even some may say. So I think that it's very important to drive the distinction right here in between those two things. We're talking about getting folks to do something. We're not talking about a general play for you to be like trusted, just trusted for 45 years. And that's it. That you could do that. But I think I kind of wanted to say the mechanics of advertising we're talking about is more of that targeted response stuff.
Right. And there's one thing too, just to touch on the branding too, to kind of follow up on what you said is branding. A lot of branding is just repetition. It's just saying the same,
well said,
putting the same message out there all over the place, on a billboard, on a bus bench, on a electronic, a digital directory in a building. Just saying the same thing over and over and over again so that people, like you say, subconsciously in that lizard brain, equate this message with your firm or your company or whatever. Just do it. That's Nike. Everybody knows that. Why? Because it's blasted everywhere.
And you've seen it over and over and over. And I just wrote down compounding interest.
Yes.
There's a great book by Ray Edwards, writing How to Write Copy That Sells. But he says traditionally advertisements, people need to see it 7 times before they see it the first time. And that's on a giant billboard that they drive by to work. You just have to consider, if that's what it takes to get a billboard notice by somebody driving, imagine how hard you'd have to focus on the copy and crafting a good ad online. You really got to get the mechanics down. So let's go through those mechanics. Paul, You wrote some stuff down here. Let's take us through it.
We sort of broke this up into two sections. We're going to first talk about just the general mechanics of advertising, and then we're going to talk about the mechanics of an ad.
Smart.
So the mechanics of advertising, like we said, there's the two kinds. There's brand and direct response.
Mm-hmm.
In direct response, let's walk away from the portion of our garden that's brand here, and we'll go to direct response. And so the first thing is, well, let me read through the different points we have here. Is aim, audience, awareness or action, and differentiation. Okay. So number one is aim.
Okay.
What do they want? What's the intent? What is this particular user looking for? And if we want to talk about digital advertising, we want to talk about search ads, Google AdWords, you're going to be talking about keywords. What are these people typing in to that search engine looking for? I was hurt in a car accident. What do? I need a lawyer. Should I fight the insurance company on my own? I need to if I file bankruptcy, will I lose my house? I want a, lawyer for a no contest divorce. These are all these things. That's the intent. Mm-hmm. That's what we're talking about. And that's, I think, what your ad needs to specifically address, because Google always wants to give people the best response to that stuff in their organic results. And you need to keep that in mind when you're writing your text. And we'll talk about that later, but keep that in mind. Think about how people are looking for things and what it is they want. Mm. And you need to answer that. You need to say, you want this? I got this. Here it is.
So, and what do they want and how do they ask for it? So there's something, I don't want to get too in the weeds here, but talking about keywords this isn't just Dallas personal injury lawyer. This is, you can go into key phrases because a lot of people are searching Google and they're using full sentences. I hit my head in a car wreck. What should I do? ? People are putting searches in like that. And I forget what it was. It's thousands of brand new searches enter Google every day. Never been searched before. Mm-hmm. So you have to sort of anticipate this thing that you're not even sure, but not only is it just the terms personal injury lawyer, but it's also phrases. Do you make that distinction?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can see it by the price of the keywords too.
Ooh, interesting.
Like you said, personal injury lawyer Dallas is going to be expensive. There's going to be a lot of competition for that. A lot of people search that, but to use that as an example, these things change. User behavior is unpredictable, and technology changes these things because now we're seeing less of personal injury lawyer Dallas as the first search. Like, you figure most people are not going to just do one search before they like, boom, okay, that's what I need. Mm-hmm. They're going to search personal injury lawyer near me because everybody's on their phone. Everybody's doing, everything is location based now. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be different. Best personal injury lawyer near me. Personal injury lawyer reviews. These are all things that people are going to be looking for before they type in, your specific brand, your firm name to look you up. So, it's kind of parallel to what we were talking about with the branded stuff, where you got to cover a lot of different areas. Mm-hmm. This is kind of the thing too, where you're sort of covering a lot of those different phrases. And again, it's, keyword research and everything, that's a whole different episode. But the most important thing to keep in mind is, think about what it is that someone's going to be looking for. And you need to make sure that your ad is giving them the step to that.
And it contains that language. So yes. The aim, we're figuring out what do these potential clients want and how are they going to ask for it when they're online searching for us. Okay. So the next one is audience. We're talking now, this is who those people specifically are, demographics. Is this the victim we're talking to, or is it the victim's loved ones? Is it the family around them? So talk more about audience.
Well, I think you made a great point in the hot take where you're saying, maybe you want to target parents of teen drivers.
Oh, yeah.
There's lots of different things. And I think the best advice that I could give on this is that you should have a pretty good idea of who your audience is just by looking at your intake.
Right.
Jake, I think one of my favorite quotes from you is when you said when you were working at the law firm that, the answers were in the garbage can. You just got to get in there and look for them. People don't even sit there to think like, well, what are the demographics of my clients? Like, do you keep stats on that stuff? Are they typically male, female, Hispanic, Caucasian? Like what's their age range? What's their income level? All these things are what you can put together to really nail that audience because it's important. I wouldn't get up in front of a room of doctorate students and start telling dirty jokes, I mean, I guess unless it was a
medical joke.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like you have to know your audience. You have to be able to understand like who these people are to start to be able to sit in their chair and search how they would search. You have to kind of get into that head and think about that.
Well, and I like that. And I like because there is a little bit of an empathy there that is missing from traditional managers and owners. If I'm paying someone to create an ad for me, then I get to tell you exactly what that ad says. And it will be representative of my law firm. But the problem is, we are not hiring lawyers. Chances are your personal injury law firm is not going to hire another law firm or another lawyer. So as you look at your sales copy and you look at your advertisements, you're looking at it with lawyer eyeballs. You can't necessarily understand what your legal consuming audience is going to respond to. So I just think it's very important that we have to check our assumptions in regards to how we talk to people, because just thinking that they are low income means they won't get a joke. Or just thinking like these people are stupid. Don't talk to them smart. Don't give them a chance. Just be direct, be simple, be plain, because that's all they can handle. It's hard. You may think that's exactly how you should phrase it, but you have to question your assumptions. Test your slogans, test those advertising, test those headlines against a wider test strip other than just yourself. So I think that's important because these advertisements have to pass the audience's smell test, not your own. And I think it's important for lawyers to check themselves because their qualifications are in legal advice and giving people that good law, not in writing ads. I just want everybody to know, like, if you do all this work and you learn about advertising and then you put that towards your advertisements, that's fine. But a lot of people running a law firm are not like that. And they'll want it to be as simple and plain as possible. Also, a little scared about advertising restrictions, depending on what the local bar is saying.
Yeah.
So,
well, I can give you a funny example too. Talking about victim or victim's loved one, I had someone come to me that had a previously set up wrongful death campaign, and they were like, "Were you? I forget. Was it? Do you have a wrong? Were you injured in a wrongful death or something like that?" And it was like, no, that person isn't searching online anymore.
You've recovered amazingly from this wrongful death.
Exactly. So I think that was something where a little bit more specific, like, did you lose a loved one in unfortunate circumstances or something like that?
Oh, that's horrible. Oh God.
Would have been a little bit better than, did you die? You may have a wrongful death camp.
Right. Raise your hand if you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's pretty funny,
bro.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, I got that. You got to make sure you got your audience tight. You got to make sure you figure out what kind of language they're going to use and how they're going to respond. What's the next step?
Next is, what do you want them to do? We talked before, a lot of ads you see all over the place are these branding ones, we keep going back to Nike, just do it. But specifically here, when we're talking about intent, these intent-based ads where someone is looking for something because they need something, they need to get a service, they need legal help. You need to tell them what to do.
Yeah.
You need to tell them what you want me to do.
Right.
Learn more, click here.
Right.
Call now.
Right.
Like, you have to be really specific when you're doing that.
It's unambiguous what you want. But here's another thing that I came across, an advertisement that's too salesy. Free consultation, free download of an ebook. Get this PDF. click to chat, call to click, call me to click the chat window, call now. People will put that all in one page, and it's too much. You have to figure out if 80% of your revenue, chances are, if you're a law firm, comes from completing an intake on the phone. Chances are you want to get those people on the phone. Chances are you want to run it during business hours. Chances are you want to focus on mobile traffic. So, think about the person. What do they want? Who are they? And how do I need to phrase this? If they search personal injury lawyer near me, serve that thing in a click to call function. Don't play around with it. They're not gonna, they're not
We're
gonna
outside your house.
super
Right now.
creepy.
Just step out on the front porch.
We're the Uber of law. We're like run you over and then get out and give you our business card. I don't know, man. Is that a business model? It could be. So I love
feel like
that.
We need to put a disclaimer in right here.
we should have put it at the top.
We should have it on this whole show, man.
I know. We're a walking disclaimer. Oh my God. So awareness, action, we got the audience, we got the aim. Is there anything else you want to talk about as far as action's concerned?
No. I
Okay.
think we're pretty clear on that.
So this last point, I think, is the one that is the last to show up to a lot of, oddly enough, creative endeavors, is how to actually be different, how to differentiate yourself, how to do something different with cliche. We're all sort of living in a cliche moment. I'm obviously a lawyer, obviously advertising to you. How can I be different? Can I really challenge myself in the way that I phrase this? We talk about Hey Whipple by Luke Sullivan, advertising guru. He made a point in his book, and I thought it was so brilliant. A lot of lawyers are looking around. A lot of marketers are trying to look around at their competitors. Well, how do they phrase their things? How do they talk about their practices? What do my competitors do? What are people experiencing in this community? So a lot of people are going for best practices, industry standards. This is how we talk. So this is how lawyers, advertise. But there is no safety in numbers when it comes to advertising. If you want to stand out, you cannot be industry standard. You should avoid those time-tested best practices. You should question those. You should find some assumptions and see if you can turn them on their heads, provided that you give yourself a safe place to test these assumptions in. I want people to be different. I want you to be creative. I want you to be unique, but I don't want you to think that some creative thing is just going to be it. Unless you have a targeted audience and you know what you want them to do, you know what kind of language, and you know exactly what action you want them to take, no amount of creativity is going to help you. So creativity isn't enough, but creativity that serves a business goal, that drives action from an advertising that compels someone that's been targeted, that is the gold.
Yeah. And specifically to lawyers, like if we want to take the personal injury lawyer as an example, it's tough because what's your offer? Free consultation. Well, everybody's saying that. So how do you get away from that? I think, Jake, something that you and I could speak with authority from is that, differentiation, I think, kind of comes with a caveat, and that's learn the rules before you break them.
Yes.
There's not, you don't want to be like free cookies in the waiting room. Like that's cool. And maybe you could try that, but let's not go all in on the free cookies here before we figure out exactly, all these other things we've talked about, that you're knowing your audience, knowing what their aim is, understanding the intent of the search. That may not work so well.
Well, and you got to have all those things flying. And recently we talked to Mike Whalen, and he talked about meeting the Law Hawk, the Texas Law Hawk, who was on Super Bowl commercials and Taco Bell commercials and made a giant splash as far as advertising and lawyers are concerned. Very verbose, very extroverted kind of character. Made fun of traditional advertisements, but kind of owned it, was very aggressive. He was at a conference recently where Mike Whalen was, and they asked him, how many clients have you gotten from your advertisements? And he said none. He said he gets a lot of calls from people asking him to record their voicemail messages.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I think it's really important. You could be as different as you could possibly be. And you can make a giant splash on the Super Bowl. But unless you're backing up all of these advertisements with some good service and some substance, then it doesn't matter how crazy and good your ads were. So, I wanted to put that out there because that's something I went into that interview and I was like, yeah, I love the Lawhawk. That stuff is cool, man. He made a huge splash. Well, he didn't. He did, but he didn't connect it to a way where he could generate revenue and kind of like extend his brand and
yes.
What? So I think that really blew my face off and I had to go and pick it up.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is differentiation, but still being relevant, and still keeping in mind, like, how is this? You have to think it through. You can't just be like, hey, let's say free cookies. You gotta lean into it a little bit more. There's a little bit more to it. And that's why copywriting is hard. I mean, that's why it really is. In order to make something stand out, but still kind of conform to these rules, whether it's AdWords, character counts, or, the different intent-based searches and stuff like that, it's really, really hard. And, so let's go into section 2 here and talk about the mechanics of an ad. Let's see if we can walk people through it and make it a little less difficult.
Let's do it.
Stay tuned as we continue on a very special episode of LAWsome.
So the mechanics of an ad. We're going to get down to the technical aspects of how this works and what you can do and how you can actually write better ads. And so let's talk about some different types of ads first. And we've talked about it a little bit before. But the big two, particularly in Google, we're not going to talk about YouTube, but we're going to talk about stuff, that you're going to find on the interwebs, is search and display.
Okay.
Display ads, you see them, if you don't have an ad blocker, you see them on websites and stuff. It's basically an image, with a click here button, couple words, and it's typically usually those are more brand focused,
right?
Or Amazon uses them a lot to try and get you. It's a lot more e-commerce kind of stuff.
Sure.
Everybody does it. There's a thing called banner blindness where I don't know how effective they even are anymore, but those are display ads.
Right.
Search ads do not use images, and they show up above the search results in Google. So if those are more focused on intent, and that's what we're talking about now. We're not going to be talking about display ads because putting pictures and words together is a different kind of art form, and we want to talk about just using words. We're going to be talking about just trying to get these words lined up right. So we're going to be talking about text ads.
And I think it's important that we just focus on words. People are lambasting a lot of digital culture and young folks saying that they don't read. Humans have never read more words in our whole history. We are doing nothing but reading on the internet. So, sure, it's a text and it says LOL. That still counts as reading. We are sending more words back and forth, and we only really have words to judge one another by unless we have those images. So I think it's important that lawyers understand who get paid to be professional writers and deal with the perception and comprehension of the written word. It just makes so much sense for us to just focus on text because that's all lawyers do. I mean, how many times do they wish they could just show a picture rather than writing a whole bunch? But focusing on those words is great. I think especially for the legal audience because we're in their arena,
Absolutely. Well, and like we say in the hot take, these kind of things, writing a good headline, having fundamental copywriting skills will help you in various mediums, whether it's TV or billboards or whatever.
I think that lawyers already know how to be compelling copywriters.
Oh, sure. It's there. They've got the skills. We just got to kind of teach them how to, start to pull these different pieces together to, build their Lego tower.
So talking about the Lego tower,
let's do it.
Right here. You say, make a list.
Yes.
What's this list about? This is how you start.
just pull up a doc and you want to just start writing up different ideas and variations, and don't worry too much about, this is like your rough draft. So just go. You just want to start writing different variations. Keep in mind those different things. You should be sitting there thinking, audience, who am I writing for? Is it loved ones?
Mm-hmm.
What did they search for?
Mm-hmm.
And then just start making a list of these different things. And I can tell you right now, most of them will end up in the garbage,
Mm-hmm.
but that's okay. You just got to start getting it out, because there's going to be something there.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be some nugget, some flower in that garden you're planting.
That's right.
You'll be like, yeah, that's where it's at.
Yeah. Well, it's a Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours to become proficient at any kind of skill set or craft. Same kind of vibe comes around advertising. You just kind of got to throw a bunch of stuff at the wall and not be afraid for failure. So create a safe place for you to do a whole bunch of different variations.
Save them. Have an ongoing list.
Yeah, don't get rid of them. True.
And there's lots of different ways. You might be like, well, how do I write a good ad? I mean, I'm a lawyer. Call me. Well, right. You got to push yourself a little bit, and you'll find when you start to step out of being, sometimes direct can work, but writing prompts, using different words to push yourself in a different direction, maybe. And we're gonna give people a list of these writing prompts, by the way. So
yeah,
you can check them all out. You're kind of taking a concept, so you want to give, like, for example, inside information. You'd use copy like secret, confidential, tips, professional, or something like, if you want to take smart advice, it would be clever, how to, or learn how to, stuff like that. So those are kind of different, just sort of prompts. And you're not going to have a finished ad out of this, but you just got to sort of get these things down.
I like that. And so you also have here that there are certain angles that you can, dramatic angles, from which you can approach the copy. Chances are you're going up against insurance adjusters. Chances are you're going up against the opposing sides to the legal claims that you represent. How can you talk about that in a David versus Goliath manner? How can you help people feel a sense of urgency? Don't wait until, this happens. Fear of loss. Maybe they're not hurting now after that motor vehicle accident, but how can you use language that can get them in 5 years in the future when the collapsed discs are starting to pinch nerves in their legs and they can't go on a walk? Just some kind of way that you can hit them, knowing, take a look at your case history and say, what was the most craziest story, and how can I generalize that towards a specific audience to help them understand that this is a real story. You could miss out on this, or create that sense of urgency.
Those are great ones you say there. David versus Goliath, fear of loss, urgency. Fear of loss, another trick, if you don't even want to go that far down the road, you can be like, the insurance company has their best interests in mind. Are you sure you're getting the amount of money that you deserve?
Yep.
The insurance company has thousands of lawyers. Who's going to fight for you?
Yep.
These bills aren't going to pay themselves. You're racking them up now. Take action now.
And so headed down there, you got your angle. You figured out a format. You're going to write a whole bunch of different variations. Should people write different variations for their call to action, or should they always kind of identify what the number one generating channel is?
Because think about it this way, though. Think about where your ad is going to be shown. And you're going to have to go into your analytics and look at this and say, are my users looking up this stuff mobile, or are they doing it on desktop? Because if it's on desktop and I say, call me, and there's no phone number in the ad, because in Google you can't, it has to be an ad extension, which doesn't show all the time, then you're going to want to put learn more.
Excellent. Yeah.
So they go to your landing page. If it's on mobile, call now. And it's probably going to be showing that click to call thing. So that does make a difference. Okay. You do need to test that. Learn more versus contact us. Get help now. You can totally test those things. That's a great idea.
Well, but what you're saying is really key, is test those things. We're not committing to anything here. It's like we don't have commitment issues either. We're ready to commit. But, the idea here is that get your prompts together, get a whole bunch of different angles, get a whole bunch of different actions, and then dwindle it down to the best, and then hit that off, and then test those assumptions. I think that's important.
Well, and to talk about the format a little bit more too, this is going to make a difference because you have to lead into the call to action.
Right.
Like your headline isn't going to be like call now.
Right.
I mean, I guess you could try it.
Depends.
But, yeah, it depends.
There it is. Test
everything
it.
we have to say is qualified with it depends. I mean,
and lawyers love that stuff.
Yeah. For a format, if you want to use, for example, like if then. If you've been in an accident, then you deserve compensation.
Nice.
Let's make sure you're going to get the most that you deserve. Call now.
I love that. And so you make another point when we're talking about the mechanics of an ad, addressing your user in a personal way. I think a lot of people, this is where the brand awareness and direct response gets confused, because they're like, we stand up for 45 years and we can help anyone hurt in a car. When someone's seeing that advertisement, all they see is we, and there's no room for them. So you put, were you injured in a car accident? Attention, car accident victims. Like, I'm going straight to it. We're not mincing words. If you've been in a car accident, you're going to see this.
Just to clarify that, it's were you injured in a car accident versus attention car accident victims. I want to say you. I want to say, hey, you. Not, hey. Let me just put my hand up and wave. Anybody there? Like, I want to start to establish a connection here. And you and I, we did this. I mean, we did this. I remember working on landing pages where it was like, literally address this person like, we understand you're here because you've had some unfortunate circumstances. You did, not anybody who did, or anybody who's landing on this landing page. We've been in business for 45 years. We're trusted, and look at the awards we've won. And here's our badass attorneys. So call us. It's like, no, we're starting off in the ad. We're saying, were you injured in an accident? You get to a landing page that says, we know what you are going through, and we're here to help you. Right.
Or you deserve the help. Right, exactly. And you say here is use language that your potential clients use and understand. And I think that kind of goes into the character limits. There could be room for you to say contingency fee-based legal advocacy work. You could say that, but
litigation,
but knowing that people are a little bit confused when it comes to even just an end user license. Or what is a non-arbitration agreement that you sign for apps that says you aren't allowed to sue us. People don't even know what an arbitration thing is. People don't know what contingency fee means. So people who can simplify that and say, hey, we don't get paid until, you get the results. Done. If they want to talk about contingency fee, send them to another page where you explain that verbatim, or take them to a phone call with one of your intake professionals and help them understand, because they probably answer that question over and over and over. But I think if you are working with character limits, make sure you're using the language that your potential clients understand. And even if you could rest your laurels on a bigger word, find a smaller word or find a better way to phrase it. I just think that's super, super powerful, because that's another thing. Your lawyer brain will say, clearly, this is an agreement upon which it's contingent. And it's like, no. These people don't get it, man. You got to phrase it in a different way.
And I think it's important, too, to go back and touch on differentiation for a minute. Don't think your fancy wording is going to be good at doing that. Just because I say litigation, or contingency or something like that. Your ad is different, but people might just be like, oh, I don't even know what that means. Well, this ad above him says no win, no fee. That sounds good to me.
Right. Right. And I think a lot of people hide, as Gail talked about in the intro, the weasel words, but I think a lot of people use academia words to hide behind, because it makes you look good. It makes you look cool if you can use the word contingency. Like, that is exactly what we do here. And you have to come up to me. And I think a lot of people have that vibe. So don't be afraid to drop it. Don't be afraid to drop that, because we know you're smart. You'll be smart when you prove it to them when they come into your office. But right now in an advertisement isn't the time for you to say, look at these words. You know that we handle this kind of stuff.
These things too, I understand you're going to be, restricted not only by character limits, but by state bar rules.
Right.
So you may not be able to say expert.
Very key.
But definitely, and keep them. Here's another disclaimer. Please make sure you read all those things before you do anything we say. But for example, one that I've tested personally is compensation versus payout or settlement. Compensation might not be so tangible to some people. I don't understand compensation. I don't go to work and get compensated. I go to work and get paid.
Right. I get a check.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Right there. I mean, so actually, Jake, that's a really, get it. We've heard it a million times. Interact, get a check. But a check is a tangible thing. I mean, they didn't just throw that out there because it rhymes.
Well, and also rhyming, alliteration, all those fun word, the fun way to play around with words. I'm sorry, that works.
Absolutely.
When we're talking about advertising, and lawyers will get upset. Why? Interact, get a check. No, it's contingent. There's so many more, smaller things inside of that. Why would you just reduce it to this simple thing? Because the audience responds to it, not because it represents the legal community in the best light possible. We're making an advertising decision. This is a business decision, and it's focused towards the audience. The audience likes it. They want a jingle. They like it to rhyme. I have to hold this sledgehammer. Y'all get it. And they pick up the phone. So
totally. And you can have fun with it. You can, don't use this, but here's an example. Say with the insurance company withholding compensation, let us handle your litigation. You can totally do that. Try it. That's what I'm saying. All these things should be going on that list.
Right.
Just put them together and see, and something's going to stick. Something you're going to run a couple of these ads and you'll see. It'll just be like, aha.
Well, and I like it because test these assumptions, even the assumptions that we have. But get it out there, because you have to say this in a way that grabs their attention. You have to have a little bit of originality, a little bit of a fresh, unique perspective on these things. And this kind of goes into this Bill Bernbach quote, who Bill Bernbach was an advertising guy in the 50s and 60s, really revolutionary, big part of a creative revolution in advertisement, something that people in the advertising community talk about all the time. Did the Volkswagen campaigns, where it's just like an ugly bug. It's small but they owned the shortcomings of their brands in a way that was really cool and kind of broke down the fourth wall. And Avis, because we're second best, that means we have to work harder. And a lot of that stuff was showing the things that they're working on, but turning it into like an imaginative, original way to present it. And so he has this quote about the essential nature of originality in advertisements, and he puts it very succinct, and I want to just share it. The truth isn't the truth till people believe you, and they can't believe you if they don't know what you're saying, and they can't know what you're saying if they don't listen, and they won't listen unless you're interesting, and you won't be interesting unless you say things imaginatively, originally, and freshly. I think that's it. That is totally cool. But therein lies a little bit of a rub as we're traipsing through this garden of beautiful creativity. You have to make sure it's not just for looks. We have to treat this like a crop. We're making money off of this. So you have to focus it towards a business goal. And I got into marketing because I didn't want to be a salesperson. and I was down to help people come up with the look of it and everything. But if you want to sell and you want to get grabby and you want to be a snake oil, greasy little snaky snake, that's on you. But I realized I'm only going to stay in my position as a marketer if we can sell stuff. So it changed my mind when I want to be as creative as possible. I want to do it really fresh. I want to have the best copywriting skills, but I have to make sure that this drives business goals and helps us generate revenue. Because if it doesn't, then you're just having fun. Then you're just the law hawk. I think it's an exciting opportunity, and we're not asking you to create the next level of advertising or do this next generation stuff. It's actually figure out how you make your money, figure out who you make it from, figure out what kind of language they want, find a different perspective to do it, test a bunch of different assumptions, write a whole bunch of different variations of it, and test them and see what's going on. And then you'll be able to figure out how you can get advertising that helps your firm grow online. It's not just about being creative, and it's not just about being wacky. So I just kind of want people to understand that. And that's coming from the guy who's completely wacky. Like, I love being so weird and absurd. But unless I can help people make money, your absurdity is just some kind of side effect,
Well said. So to get down to it, we've given a lot of examples. There's a lot to take in here. We've given a lot of theoretical advice, a lot of practical advice, a lot of, we've done this stuff. So what we did is we put together a doc for you, a download that has everything you need to start writing better ad copy. It's got writing prompts, advice, some different templates. That's going to take, everything we talked about is something you can read, go through, reference back to, use for writing prompts, and it's yours. It's our gift as grizzled legal ad copywriters to you, our listeners.
So click through to the show notes. We'll have that download there. And if you have any questions about advertising campaigns that you're working on or certain ways to get better at copywriting, just hit us up, send us an email, send us a line on social media. This is stuff that me and Paul talk about all the time, much to our family's chagrin. So to talk to somebody who we can help them write a better ad, it will make us so happy because, we have a lot of advice, but it's nothing unless we can help people actually use it and find value from it and line their pocketbooks with this successful information. So please, if you have any questions or any thoughts about advertising or copywriting as it relates to marketing your law firm online, just email us and give us a message because we love to talk about this stuff. So be in touch.
See you next time.
See you next time on LAWsome.
For show notes, links, and info, go to thelawsomepodcast.com or follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Be sure to leave us a review and rating in iTunes or wherever you find the you listen to. Until next week, stay lawsome.